There is a common view that the Ottoman Empire survived for 6 centuries by micromanaging every transaction, market, and loaf of bread. But the image of an unyielding state is largely a misunderstanding. It stems almost entirely from the reign of one man, Sultan Mehmed the Conqueror. By the mid-15th century, Mehmed had just conquered Constantinople. He was determined to build a perfectly centralized, absolute imperial state. This map shows the problem he faced. A global silver shortage was gripping the region. Trade routes were carrying less and less physical currency, starving the state of the silver it needed to function. Mehmed's reaction to this crisis was an attempt to force absolute control over a shrinking economy. It became the ultimate stress test for Ottoman institutions, forcing the empire to find a different way to survive. To fund his central state, Mehmed launched an era of aggressive economic intervention. He intended to move every possible ounce of wealth from the public into his central treasury. This chart tracks the silver content of the Ottoman akçe. Over 30 years, the state systematically stripped the coin of its value. This policy, called tashish, allowed the sultan to pay his armies using 30% less silver than before. He also deployed state agents known as the yasakçı kular. These guards were authorized to search merchants and physically confiscate gold and silver to keep the imperial treasury full. In major commercial hubs like Istanbul, the state enforced nark, strict price ceilings. These were designed to artificially lower the cost of goods in markets like the one seen here. While restricting the local economy, Mehmed also looked outward. He minted the gold sultani, a coin created specifically to rival the Venetian ducat, the international benchmark of the era. The result was an imperial treasury overflowing with silver, even as the local markets it relied on grew increasingly restricted and exhausted. But the absolute system had a limit. While the state could dictate the price of wheat, it proved much harder to trap liquid money. Markets reacted almost immediately. Money changers hoarded their coins, and traders smuggled their capital out of the empire to avoid the sultan's guards. As this diagram shows, rigid state blockades couldn't stop the flow of finance. Liquid capital simply bypassed the sultan's decrees, moving toward markets where it was treated more favorably. The Ottoman state had reached a limit. It discovered that it could not out-legislate the global financial market. When Mehmed's reign ended, the bureaucracy took stock of the situation. They saw the wealth he had collected, but they also saw the economic damage his policies had caused. The bureaucracy reached a different conclusion. They began to treat the state's influence over money as something that had clear physical limits. Future administrators moved away from everyday intervention. In its place, they adopted a philosophy defined by flexibility and pragmatism. They adapted to the market. They allowed foreign coins to circulate freely and reserved strict price controls only for emergencies, like feeding the capital during a war. Mehmed's attempt to force the market gave way to a system that followed it. By prioritizing flexibility over total control, the Ottoman state secured a level of stability that lasted through the massive economic shifts of the next 400 years.